All right, and we will get started. Hello, my name is Michael Klein, and this will be AnonCast token gating in a weekend. We'll talk about what is AnonCast, the original version, how it was improved, other things we can do with token gating in Noir, and then wrap up with a few final thoughts. So first of all, what is AnonCast? This is an interview with Kartik Patel, one of the creators of AnonCast. Nobody can tell who wrote what post, even us. The zero-knowledge proofs are constructed on the client, so on the web app, none of the identifying data is actually sent to any servers, just that the proof is sent to the servers. And once the proof is validated on the server, we send that out to the post. There's no identifying information that's sent. We don't even collect any metrics or analytics on the site, just because we wanted to stay as pure as we can to anonymity. Why is this interesting? Well, it was built in a weekend, so it was a really tiny project, and it exploded. Over 100,000 holders, close to 1 million transfers, and about 15,000 each Warpcast and Twitter followers. There were a couple of celebrity impressions that I'm going to mention. Jesse Polak of Base was sent an AnonCast, and he responded talking about MetaMask. And there's also a report that Vitalik Buterin has aped into the Anon token. Of course, it's anonymous, so we don't actually know if he's posted. So from a user perspective, what does this look like? Well, we have this post anonymously modal, and if you have a sufficient balance of Anon tokens, you can alternatively post to AnonCast on Warpcast, promote the post to Twitter as well, or delete posts. And on Uniswap, an Anon token is about 1/5 of a cent, and there's an option to reveal yourself at a later date. So does this actually cost Anon tokens? No, it's just a balance check. Once you have the required balance for some feature, you can use it as many times as you'd like, as long as there's a rate limiting. And then what does this actually cost? Well, about 10 USDC to access Farcaster posting, and about 4,500 USDC to access Twitter and X posts. I should mention that the Twitter and X posts do have to go through the central server and have a bit of a higher moderation burden. And that's why there's a higher gate as far as I understand. So what did the MVP look like? What did he actually need to get this out? Well, the Anon token, an ERC20 with some simple mix-ins, was deployed to Ethereum. This was pretty much all that they had on chain. And the original version was just a quick hackathon project that used a fully trusted setup with a Merkle tree off chain to check all the current Anon holders. And then on the client side, you would just prove that you have an Ethereum signature for an address that's derived that is inside the Merkle tree. So as long as, and in the first version, you had to have at least 20,000 Anon, which is, off the top of my head, that's about $4,000. You would send your tweet and the proof to the back end checks the proof and sends it out. And you can't really read this, but you can see that it's about 50 lines of code is the primary circuit to do this token gating, which is really cool. There is a little bit more in the EC recover to just kind of pin a couple different library functions together to actually pull out a public address, but that's all that's really required for this. Very straightforward. So how do they improve it? It got popular, and they realized that the original levels of security, the off-chain Merkle tree, and the 20,000 token balance might need a little bit of tweaking. So what did they do? What are some of the standard improvements that you might do with a token gating project like this? Well, the first version was minimal and only ensured that somebody had a sufficient balance of Anon through the Merkle tree, but they wanted to actually do more about proving for Ethereum specifically, so that it could stay up to date more automatically and didn't require up-to-date back-end Merkle trees. And then the users have to somehow also fetch all the Anon users and calculate that Merkle tree as well. It's a bit much of a burden for a client-side proof. So they talked to us, and we connected them with some existing work from vLayer for client-side proofs, Ethereum storage proofs, and they were able to adopt them. So with the MVP version, they just send their tweet content plus a proof to the backend, and we do need the full tweet content to be visible so that it could be moderated if required. And currently, you sign with the ETH wallet, so it's a little bit more streamlined. You send, you basically check the Ethereum contract storage slot and derive the Merkle tree, find that root and send that with your proof, which is much more lightweight. you find the Merkle path, and you're proving that path in the tree. This uses, as I mentioned, the existing V-layer stuff, so it was very lightweight modification to improve it. And yeah, effectively, this ensures that on-chain has the exact same balance as we're proving in the circuit, completely anonymously. And there are other improvements that are a little bit less circuit-specific. So anonymity sets are very important. I mentioned the 20,000 Anon tokens. That 4,000 USD requirement to be in the anonymity set was too high. And so basically, it meant that we only had like a handful of bits of entropy for participants. So Ola, who is one of the contributors to AnonCast, pointed this out, and they basically just shrunk the requirements of how many Anon tokens you needed. And that was sufficient to anonymize users. I believe the original amount was 20,000, and the current amount is closer to 10,000. And Ola has also been working on keeping the Ethereum storage proofs up to date with the latest Noir. He's there on the right with the beard. So then what are some other things that we can do with token gating in Noir? Well, we can do some things like whale gating apps. We can do NFT gating. And then we can do some group intersections for composable group community building with Noir contracts or Noir circuits. So whale gating. So the idea of this use case is you know that there are a lot of power users that have a lot of funds. They're extremely active in the community, and they have a very obvious on-chain presence. Often such users will have large balances of key tokens in your ecosystem. They may have individual NFT-style tokens that are very expensive. But basically, if you went on a block explorer, it would be really quite obvious that they were in this category. The thing is, they don't want to be the first person to have a public transaction with your app because that's too much attention. They don't want to answer questions about it. They just want to try it. They want to see if it's any good and ideally have that path a little bit greased. So what you can do is make a circuit that checks your set of preconditions. It could be things like you must own this token, you must have a sufficient balance of a governance token, you must XYZ. But really, this could be just like a bullet point list of the types of power users that you're interested for your app. And then you can token gate to guarantee that anybody who meets these conditions can participate completely anonymously without any on-chain footprint. So for example, giving gas to let people try out your app, or giving anonymous access tokens to try out your app so they can do it outside of where they're sending the proof. Similarly, we can focus just on NFT gating. So for example, if you have an ETHDenver POAP, here's another POAP just for ETHDenver participants. There are a lot of NFT-gated token communities, but they tend to be gated from Web 2, which requires you to always say who you were, how much you paid for the NFT, that sort of thing. But a lot of these like Telegram group, like trading groups type things could use lightweight Noir client-side proofs for anonymity plus ensuring that somebody is in the membership set. Really, we can just kind of combine this and do multi-group. So if you have an NFT plus governance tokens, if you have a POAP before some time, so you're an OG ETHDenver participant, and you're also a member of Wyoming DAO, hey, maybe we really want to do more Wyoming DAO type things, and we know we want to do a hackathon, that's an easy way to get people interested in your product because they have a free ticket. They have some gas that they can spend or whatever else it might be. And then future development. So the AnonCast team has realized that the original project was still fairly hackathon scope, and the features would really be a completely separate product if they were to really amp it up. So they have launched a early stage development of this thing called Anon.world. It's a social media app with privacy features for browsing and creating anonymous posts with verified credentials. The idea is that groups will agree on verified credentials and use them to post all from the group. Everything is backed by a token and uses zero-knowledge proofs to generate anonymous credentials and proofs of the use of those credentials. Though after that, Kartik, one of the founders that I mentioned earlier, is joining Farcaster. So Farcaster is a little bit similar to Anon.world, but it's a lot more established. As I mentioned before, one of the places that you can post your social media thing through AnonCast is directly to Farcaster. And it's meant to permissionlessly build and distribute social apps. So they haven't publicly announced exactly what they might be doing with ZK, or they might be doing with something like this. But I would just like to point out the recent TikTok announcement that they are using ZK for secure attestation to ensure that they know where the content comes from. And I imagine that Farcaster could use something similar. So in conclusion, AnonCast is a very simple application of token gating that you can build something like it. Token gating is composable with existing communities. You don't have to start your community from scratch. You already know who's most likely to like your product. You can build on top of an existing community. You can, to client-side, privately prove membership in any one key community and offer access or other benefits, though be sure that the number of people that you're offering these benefits to is sufficiently large so that you don't leak who you're offering it to. For example, if you require somebody to be in the top 3 owners of how much of a token balance they have for some governance token, it's going to be really obvious that it's one of those 3 people. And the likelihood of them revealing the tiny little bit of data, such as time zone, that's required to get it down to one person is very easy. So that's very important, and it's not something that many engineers are used to thinking about. And finally, tooling in Noir allows simple token gating with low dev cost. 50 lines of code for the initial version, and I think about 75 lines of code for the improved version. Of course, you got to import some things, so that the total size is a bit longer, but very straightforward and very exciting what we can do with it. And that's my talk. Are there any questions? Yes?
One thing I've wondered about this, with the client-side proving, what prevents someone from, like for the token gating, let's say it's like a whale token gating, why can't they generate 10 proofs client-side as they transfer the fund to different addresses and then sell the proofs or something?
Yes, so the question was, why can't somebody hold a token, generate a proof, transfer the tokens, and generate an additional proof? So this is really a per token specific. I'm not familiar with the specific details of the Anon token, but the most common solution I've seen is either one, you expect that the cost of the transfer wipes out the benefit of having a second copy for free. So for example, for the $10 version, the fees are going to wipe out any benefit. And then the second thing, besides requiring a larger amount, is really you just have a delay on transferring the tokens, or you require staked tokens.
Okay, but if it was like ETH whale or something like that.
Yeah, that they can just recycle it.
Okay, so that actually is something to consider.
Yes, that is very important to consider. Yes. Are there any other questions? All right, thank you so much for joining, and have a great one.